Hello and welcome to Making It Manufacturing Spotlight Series here in New York live at the DCAT conference. I have the pleasure of being joined by Sarah Stevens, CEO of Chrysalis. Sarah, how are you today?
Really well, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Oh, pleasure to have you. Sarah, so Chrysalis, they have a very distinctive model. For those hearing about it for the first time, how would you describe where the business fits in the market?
Yeah, so Chrysalis is a unique sort of hybrid CDMO model where we operate within our own 3 fixed facilities or indeed in other people's manufacturing facilities to provide a platform of GMP manufacturing and GXP services. So essentially, innovators and service providers utilize our facilities and our services to essentially manufacture their own product. So we will provide all the enabling and wraparound services to support the manufacturing process, whilst allowing our customers to retain the control, the IP, control of their schedule and timeline, and contrasting a little bit with some of the more typical challenges you might experience at a CDMO. So in terms of where we kind of fit into the market, I think we fit very much alongside and complementary to CDMOs in the sense that, we're providing services to early phase biopharma innovators through to those who are looking for, the advantage of low COGS at late phase and commercial manufacturing. So any, innovative product or process that essentially requires a operationalized clean room environment and some expertise to progress smoothly.
And how important is that today in this current CDMO landscape?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question actually, because I think almost terrible phrase to say happy accident, but almost by happy accident, I think we provide a real advantage at the moment where, people are being a little more conservative with their spend and a little bit more thoughtful around cash flow and, capital investment, such that if you operate within our model, our contracting structure, our pricing structure is favourable in the sense that you can be a little more conservative with your spend over time. And indeed, this piece about really owning your own schedule and timeline means that you can come in and out flexibly and you're not kind of, beholden to anybody else's, schedule.
So you mentioned, companies are a bit more cautious about how they spend these days. How important is it the way you navigate around creating those partnerships in collaborating with, getting the pricing right, but also kind of being able to deliver on what you say?
Yeah. It's funny. I think our model provides a really unique and kind of a fun way actually to develop creative partnerships. And we just this week actually we announced a partnership with a really interesting company, Biotech.
Amazing.
So they are, thank you. They are true kind of experts in the field of sort of tech transfer, process engineering, GMP facility sort of optimization. And so I think that for us, we can kind of provide a sort of a one-stop environment, but with complete flexibility. So should somebody need just, a little bit of support around how do you fit neatly into a Chrysalis facility, we can provide that. There may be people who know exactly what they're doing and we will sit right back and just support to ensure that they are, compliantly operating. So I think more than ever now where, risk profiles are high, investment is maybe a little more thoughtful and cautious, the opportunity to get a little bit creative and partner across the sector is incredibly important. We want people to feel the flexibility and not feel that they're constrained by, overcommitting too soon.
So a lot of biotech companies are, under pressure with how they spend their finances, but it's also the speed as well.
Yeah.
So companies are under a lot of pressure to move quickly, but, with the speed comes with trade-offs.
Yeah.
So in your view, Sarah, where do companies most often get the balance wrong when thinking about manufacturing strategy?
Yeah. This I could talk about for a long time. So I think that
I love it.
There's often, this need for speed because time is very, very costly, right? So you want to, get there first, optimize. You often need to be the first one or you're kind of out of the game. But I think the challenge with that though is if you don't do that, slow down to speed up at early phase, on the development, on the technical front, and you rush into a GMP process, you know, you may later find that in fact it takes you longer, or you have to, you know, revalidate some part of a process. So I think that for me, you know, there's lots of GMP capacity, but is it, you know, fit for purpose? Yes, you can get in there quickly, but is it worth just investing a little more upfront to ensure that, you know, when you do progress, it's, you know, can be right first time, and you're not, you know, again, creating constraints further down the line.
So what do you think then it is for companies who aren't looking to kind of build in-house anymore, but they're looking to use external manufacturing?
Yes.
Where do you believe you guys come in on that then?
I think we fit perfectly in the middle.
Okay.
And it's interesting as we, you know, we're almost 1 year old as Chrysalis, and we spent a lot of time trying to, you know, think about how do we articulate this model, which is novel and completely differentiated. So it's kind of something new. But one of the, you know, the ways that we discuss this often is that we're the kind of hybrid in the middle. So, you know, fewer and fewer people rightly are kind of building large GMP infrastructure. And at the same time, they may be, you know, cautious to go and lock in entirely to a CDMO environment where, you know, just by the nature of the model, you're handing over control, you're handing over the ownership of that product. So we feel like we're the balance right in the middle, where you absolutely have the ownership of the product, the process, you know, the IP, the future commercialization, but we have absolutely mitigated that level of risk. You know, we've lessened the need for upfront capital expenses, and then that ongoing kind of operationalized cost is again much reduced with us, and therefore we see that as a you know, the kind of balance in between. So you essentially own your facility within our facility, but you do not have to implement the full running costs of a facility as you would, you know, in a build your own scenario. And it's, you know, sometimes it might be some of the kind of unsexy stuff that we do, but it's the stuff that's absolutely critical to compliance and smooth running.
Exactly. I think it's potentially CDMOs who go too far outside their niche and try and do too much. You know, you're talking a lot about balance earlier, and I think that's key in being successful.
Very much so.
Sarah, what do you believe an ideal client looks for within Chrysalis?
Yeah. I think for us, they're looking for an opportunity, again, as I say, you know, to kind of retain their process, bring to bear their technical expertise, but, you know, bring that to a GMP environment in a way that, you know, one may just be, you know, quicker. We can get folks into our facilities in a kind of 4 to 6 week time frame, which is pretty unique. And again, I think they're looking for an environment where they can trust, you know, the infrastructure, the environment, the accountability that we take on, but again, focus on their technical expertise, their science and their know-how, and not be, you know, distracted by some of the, you know, critical but perhaps less exciting elements of a GMP facility. And I think just as a general sort of comment, when we look at our customers and they look at us, and this goes for, you know, all, I think, service environments, a collaborative and a transparent relationship where everyone, you know, has their piece and also knows what they don't know, so that you can really come together and sort of pool the brain power. And that's, you know, would form the basis of a successful partnership. So, you know, transparency, openness, great communication. Things always go wrong in drug development. So you learn from those things together, and it's, you know, sort of cliched and obvious, but a real focus on, you know, communication and partnership is everything.
Exactly. Amazing. Sarah, I want to dive into your journey a little bit, into how you got to becoming CEO of Chrysalis. So when you look back on your career, was there a particular moment when you realized that you wanted to move into a broader, more leadership, more strategic role as CEO? Obviously.
Again, a good question. And I actually think there was not one sort of defining moment. I mean, I still wonder now, how did we sort of end up here? And I absolutely love what I do. I feel it's absolute privilege to be in this role, you know, leading Chrysalis. I guess the journey to get here, I spent, you know, 20 years on the sort of CDMO service side. I, you know, started out with a little bit more academic leanings, PhD and postdoc. So, you know, it was obvious to me early on that as much as I, you know, was fascinated by the kind of the hands-on science and the technical elements of this space, I just seemed to land more on the people side, the, you know, leadership side. I really love interacting with people, whether it's internally or customers. And so I kind of found my found my spot, I guess, on the CDMO side, where it's organized chaos, it's fun, it's fast. And I can't quite pinpoint how I sort of went so far into the leadership side, other than to say I know that I've always enjoyed it, and I think that that is incredibly important. And it's never about like me or the leader, but I've been incredibly fortunate to work with and be able to learn from all kinds of people at all levels within organizations. And the I guess the trick to leadership is really being able to be that sort of steward and bring people together and recognize that, you're not, if everyone's just looking at you to tell them the answer, then you've sort of done something wrong. So there's not a defining moment. I've been, as I say, fortunate to work for and with some incredible leaders, and you see how to do it, how not to do it. I enjoy operating at the intersection of the technical, the operations, and the financial parts of a business. So it's probably a kind of a natural place in which I found myself here.
I'm a big believer of kind of learning from your mistakes in the past.
Absolutely.
And that's where you kind of, when I see professionals strive in their market, it's because they've learned from that.
Yeah.
And, throughout your career, you've been in a lot of highly technical and operational roles as well.
Yes.
Do you think that's had an impact on the way you lead today?
Yeah, very much so, because I think that it's, if nothing else, there's a level of empathy and understanding of, the roles. If I, leading very diverse teams in a company like Chrysalis, I have been and done many of those roles. So I think it's very helpful to have a kind of first-hand understanding of, some of the challenges. And I guess it helps you relate a little more to the organization.
Because, Chrysalis, it's a year old. It's very innovative. It's very exciting. So what else really drew you to this company and kind of stepping in as CEO?
Yeah, I think the foundation of our model, came out of a former organization, and we were in an incredibly fortunate position to be able to, look at some of the assets and say, okay, out of what became a difficult situation for that company, we've been able to raise some new investment. We've, met somebody and a group that sees what we see, and, by we, me and two of my, then and now colleagues. So we were able to, take what was great of the foundation, and kind of start over, in the sense that it's not about clean rooms as a commodity. It's about, you create value in a clean room when you've got great people, great services, and really understanding some of the challenges and opportunities that we as Chrysalis could provide to innovators that differs from any other, service provider environment. So it was kind of like a little bit of the best of CDMO, something new.
Yeah.
And, we all at Chrysalis really believe passionately in, what we're providing, this kind of unique access, affordability, themes around democratizing access to innovative work, so that it doesn't get lost, and great ideas do have an opportunity to progress.
And you guys you're 1 year old. Where do you potentially see the challenges then, and how would you overcome them?
I mean, there's been so many, challenges we may have seen coming, others that you don't. And I think that with a great team and great people, we just kind of address everything head on. If we need to pivot, we'll do that. We stick to what works well. For us, one of the really interesting, it was sort of a challenge, but now has really become an opportunity for us, is the ability to take this operating platform out of our own fixed facilities. And, it's mobile. So we can now, we had a customer that was leaving one of our facilities to go to their own. Which, fine, but now we're going with them. And by doing that, we are vastly streamlining, time and cost of tech transfer, which everything from analytical methods to processes is a lengthy, very expensive endeavor. So, this, whereas before we're kind of like, okay, we're losing a customer. Now we're not. We're actually enabling them further. We can go with them. We are working now with diverse folks from other parts of the industry, the real estate side, the construction management side, which again, we couldn't have predicted, but now we're recognizing that if we create strategic and creative partnerships with these folks early, we're just creating another path for people to realize, within their own process, the benefit of our operating model. So it's come from something we felt like it was, okay, we stop here. Actually, now we don't. Our model is very scalable and mobile, which is cool. It's new. We didn't. If you asked me this a year ago, I would not have said anything about that.
It's like, where you go, Chrysalis comes with you.
Exactly.
Quite a nice read.
Just made a new tagline. Thanks. Yeah, okay, we'll take that.
Sarah, if we were sat here in 5 years' time, how do you think you as a company would have grown, and where do you think the changes would have mainly happened?
Yeah, I think there's, two things that I would hope for that we kind of focus on now, which is making this model and Chrysalis more kind of recognizable in its own right. So what's nice about us, we're kind of the first to do this and the first to really develop it in the way that we have. It also means we have to explain ourselves quite a lot. So what would be nice is that there's a greater familiarity with this model. And I think, as we scale either in our own footprint or into other facilities, again, it's this kind of, spreading the word and people recognize Chrysalis as the unique way to work that it is. I think second to that too, I'm sure there will be ways in which we've grown that I can't predict right now. But I think, again, this blend of fixed footprint, located in, strategically logical places, the various biotech hubs across the US. So whether we are, again, have fixed infrastructure there, or whether we are there by way of working and moving with our customers and partners. And in 5 years' time, selfishly, it would be nice to have set up some camp in the UK as well.
Oh, amazing.
So, yeah.
Okay, we're going global. I like it.
Yes. Scotland first.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Is there any indication for you on the way the market's going at the moment that you feel life science companies will think about GMP infrastructure and manufacturing support? Do you think there's going to be a demand and a huge growth in need?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always going to be demand. And I think that even where things might advance around, whether it's automation or AI-enabled efficiencies or all those sorts of things, the fundamentals of the environment in which people operate, to ensure safe, efficacious, medicines for folk, that's not going to change. So I think the infrastructure there is always going to be required, but I think the people, that will grow with the space and progress are those that can, pivot and adapt and, take on some of these new technologies and not, be afraid of the impact of doing that. So I think that there's, interesting ways that we can grow and evolve, but I think that the fundamental piece around, the controls that are required to manufacture medicines and develop innovation safely will remain the same. So I think that there's a lot of demand, and I think what we can try and sort of lean into is the quick and easy space sort of model, again, perhaps for want of a better expression. But if you've got something small and innovative and you need to get into a GMP environment, it can be quite difficult to do that, even as things stand today, because, there may be big fixed CDMO infrastructure, and perhaps people aren't able to do that, whether it's time, whether it's cost. So again, being able to provide an option where you can just come in for a month, try it out,
Brilliant.
and go away, I think is how we, again, almost feed the funnel of the future with GMP infrastructure
Very
demand.
smooth, easier process.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask one question back into your journey and something for our listeners that they might want to hear. Is there any advice you would give to a female professional in the CDMO industry who's looking to go into a senior leadership role in the C-suite in the future?
Yes. Well, first of all, do it. Don't hold back.
Love it.
Don't underestimate, how successful and the value that you can bring to this space. I think it's, it obviously is still more male than female dominated, but I think there's something about recognizing the value that you bring. And I think, from my own experience over the years, there's a tendency, I think, to think, okay, maybe everybody else knows more than I do. And some do, some don't. But I think there's something about the confidence just to jump in there and, not be afraid to speak up and, show your own value.
Yeah, amazing. And then we'll finish off with this. From a professional or a personal point of view, what's your why? I like to ask this question. It's quite broad, but why do you turn up to Chrysalis every single day, excited about this company? What's your why from, your
Yeah.
behalf?
So it's funny, I think it takes a while sometimes to truly understand your why. And I feel that for me, Chrysalis, it's, maybe I'm just, getting old, but, I kind of get it now. And I think it's all about people. And by that, I mean the people that work within Chrysalis and our customers. I feel genuinely, sort of pinch myself privileged to think that we do work that enables people to do incredible things, the scientific advances, the, curative therapies, the fact that we can, provide a service that truly enables that and makes it happen, I think is absolutely, incredible. And then for the people that work within Chrysalis and for the people I've worked with over the years across, several CDMOs, they're just a really talented bunch of people. And the fact that, I can play a part in, they too feeling as I do about, coming to work, I think is, it's fun and, just feel very grateful actually.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's the people within a company that help the success.
Absolutely.
Sarah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.